Hello, Jace. Scott Hebert. Just going over the first day notes with you. I think you had a great day. We learned a lot, and I'm going to put this video together for you so you always have the reference to go back to. And the first thing we talked about, or one of the first things we talked about, was your grip and how that's going to control the face. And what we saw was this picture here on the left with you interlocking, where we dug that right pinky in. It really gets your hands so they're not together on the club. So when we look at where your V's go or where your palms oppose, this needs to feel like we're wringing out a towel, where this hand goes slightly this way, this hand goes slightly this way, so we can make them look like tiger over here, where those things run a little bit more parallel to one another, where those V's go. And you can see that we cannot see his left thumb, and here how much of the left thumb we can see. The next thing we talked about, Jace, was the short game, and this is kind of leads into the entire golf swing. But what we see is a big difference between a real comfortable and athletic pitching position where our feet are closer together, left side's up, right side's down, head's completely behind the ball, and then we look how your feet are a little bit too far apart, your arms are a little bit apart. Now if we watch Annika as she goes back and through, we see lots of movement. You can't be afraid to move on your pitches. So we're seeing her go over to that right pivot point and watch the rotation as she comes through, and the handle keeps on moving. So we don't see any flip in the left wrist. And now as we watch you go through it, we see not very much movement, very still with your lower body, and just as still as it comes through. So as it comes down, we see just a hint of rotation. Your right leg's holding back. We see lots of break, lots of throw down there at the bottom. Looking like a guy that's trying to get it up in the air, and we really see how that club head passes your hands versus where Annika's handle's still in front of the club. And once we got your feet closer together, that really started to look nice. Next we talked about putting, and we kind of liked where you're reading it. And I think it was 4 paces behind is where we really liked what we saw with the break. And we want to start to give your eyes a little bit more consistent read. So let's stay with that, and just keep 4 paces back behind it, and then we'll let it build from there and see how things go. And then getting the shaft of the club to return was the key to keeping that ball on line. So when we talked looking at it from face on, Jace, what we want to do is keep things consistent with our golf game, and let's get our head back behind the ball with the putter. Similar to what we see here, where our head stays back behind, and then thinking of that shaft returning to where it was at address. So we look at here, we see lots of throw to try and stop that putt from missing to the right. So when that left wrist breaks, that's when we see off-center hits and then having a little trouble with our controlling of our line. On to the full swing, Jace. We talked about getting you to be a little bit more behind the ball at address, because we definitely need to shallow out our angle of approach and also move that forward. So we see a difference in a similar sized guy like David Toms versus you. We can see the relationship of the head of the ball is quite a bit different. After we changed your grip back around, we fought with that quite a bit in the morning. As we try to get your shoulders to turn a little steeper, so the feeling of that left shoulder moving down before it moves back, so we can complete our turn and get the club up a little bit more to help us strike down. And then that led us into the flat spot. So if you remember, we think of the golf swing, its angle of approach as it comes down that the club is moving down, and the bottom of the arc is that forward tee, and then the club starts back up again. And when we do that well, we see that that club approaches where it clips that first tee and then strikes down, which keeps that face nice and square where we just nicked the tees out of the ground. So here's one of the drills with the board where we actually got you tilted more behind it. Still got to watch that thumb. Now as we go back, we see much fuller turn. The club's back much further. As we come down, we get the feeling of that lower body driving forward, where that club swings up over that board, and we get those arms to release nice and free. You know, and here's one of those pictures that say 1,000 words. When that left arm gets way out away from you, your weight's back on your right side, you can really see the difference how we move to that left pivot point and swung around the left leg as it goes through into a great finish here, and one that's hanging back here trying to help that ball up into the air. So we really see a difference in what's going on with your feet. But I think we had a great day. I think you're on the way, and look forward to working some more tomorrow.